Well, hello, this good, beautiful morning. Well, can't do anything about it. I can't go out. But anyway, um, I'm going to talk about the four causes of schizophrenia. I think there's actually 11. And what does that tell us? We don't know really what the real cause is. It could be multiple causes. Uh, but I'm going to go over the main four. And so let me go ahead and through that. The first major cause of what they thought was a cause of schizophrenia was the developmental model. And the developmental model basically has to have two things. One is uh, prenatal neurological damage, and part of the frontal lobe is damaged, and a lot of psychologists believe that's because during the embryonic stage, the mother got the flu, the influenza, and this attributed to that. Um, so you have loss of brain tissue, and the second thing you have to have is, excuse me, is poor parental communication. Because of this brain damage, when the baby is born, you know how you get a baby, you hold it and you make weird sounds, and it makes weird sounds back, bidirectionality, and that's bonding. Well, you make these weird sounds and the baby doesn't do anything. So pretty soon you stop making those weird sounds, and so communication is disturbed or disrupted, and you never get that back. So you guys are 18, 19 to whatever, that's when the symptoms start showing up. So we have brain damage, prenatal brain damage, and poor parental communication. The problem is that not all schizophrenics have that brain damage, so that's why it's not the universal cause of schizophrenia. One of the things that you may want to note is that children born in either late winter, January, February, are more prone to um, schizophrenia than other months. And if you go link back to when the flu season is, it makes sense. But okay. The second cause is genetic, right? Um, but the problem with that is that if you had a schizophrenic parent, both mother and father, you would think that would be 100%, but it's only 48%. So genetics do play a part, but it doesn't solve all the problems. Um, and some psychologists believe if you have schizophrenic parents, that they act weird, so you think that's normal, so that's what you learn to act. So it's environmental rather than genetic. Um, the third, and the one that's getting the biggest play now, is biochemical theory, and that's too much dopamine. And we have dopamine blockers to take that helps with schizophrenia, so that's a good link. Also, if using drug therapy helps, that's a link to neurotransmitters. And if you take too much cocaine or med, you start acting schizophrenic, that changes the neurotransmitters. But not all people with schizophrenic have too much dopamine. So, okay, there you go. The fourth is the one I was trained under, just make it right, but that's the one I was trained under. It was the stress vulnerability model, which says that you carry the gene for schizophrenia, but uh, it doesn't occur unless you have some kind of trigger in your environmental life that triggers that. So that's why in a family you can have one kid schizophrenic and one not, because they're vulnerable to it biologically, but they don't have the stressor to trigger it. So those are the four things. They talk about things for like environmental issues for schizophrenia, like full moon. That's not true. That's another myth. So, and uh, we can talk about environmental factors like possessed by the devil for Catholic exorcism and stuff. But basically, only the four we're going to worry about are developmental, prenatal brain damage, poor communication, parental communication, genetics, parents who were schizophrenics, biochemical, too much dopamine, or the stress vulnerable theory. Okay. Now, let's look at affective disorders or mood disorders. They're called mood disorders now. They used to be called affective disorders. Mood disorders are basically defined as inappropriate or unusual moods. Pretty easy definition. We're going to talk just about two. One is major depression. This is very serious. And depression is considered the common cold of psychological disorders because more people are depressed than in any other situation. And it's much more common in females, 3 times more common in females than males. I guess it's going to get depressed living with males. I could see that, especially if you're stuck in a house together. But anyway, and it starts about 18 to 29, so you're in the age group for major depression. And one of the things that is interesting, back to some things that make you feel better about myself, is that I've been saying for years and years and years that learned helplessness was a necessary ingredient for major depression. You had to have learned helplessness to be considered major depressed. Well, that used to be a symptom. But the DSM-5, guess what? It's now considered you have to have learned helplessness or have major depression. Some other characteristics of major depression, and major depression is life-threatening because people commit suicide and stuff. So this is a very serious disorder. Time passes slowly. Usually time passes fast, but in a person who's depressed, also they have intellectual impairment, which makes things worse. Because they're depressed, they don't think correctly, and it makes them more depressed. And another one is delusions of being punished. That's why you're depressed, because you're being punished by God for things that you did. He doesn't do that. And then finally, 4 is sleep disturbances. That's probably the biggest indicator. People who are depressed can't sleep. They don't get enough delta waves, so they get poor sleep. And that's why they're tired all the time. So major depression is, again, a long period of time, and it can result in suicide. So when you have somebody that's major depressed, they need help. And so you need to find a health provider that takes care of that. The other mood disorder I want to talk about was bipolar or manic depressive. And this is when you're up for a while and down for a while. And it's usually 9-3. That's not really exact, but we kind of go by that. 9 months down, 3 months up. And over a year's period, you don't go 3 months up and then for 9 months down. It can go weeks where you have manic state. And I shouldn't say this because it's probably inappropriate, but I love manics because manics are unrealistic activity. They have this unbelievable optimism. They're self-confident, and they want to go, go, go. We used to, before the state hospital stopped it, but we would bring in one of the counselors, Jim Brady, and then he's retired, and one of the manics, and I would ask the class, which one at the end was the manic, which one was Jim Brady, and they always picked Jim Brady because he would laugh at his own jokes. But the fact is that manics are people that you kind of attach with. Give you a great example. Dr. Maddox, he's retired from the state hospital, had a client that brought in her husband, and he sold grain. And he asked her, said, "How long has he had this?" "Oh, 10 years. And he said, "Why'd you bring her now?" "Well, when the economy was great, when he got in the manic state, he sold grain at the wazoo. And then he would go into major depression, and she stuck him in his room and had his kid bring him food, and she went on world cruises with all this money he made. Well, unfortunately, I think in 2008 or whatever, the economy sucked, and so he didn't make enough money, so she got mad, so she finally brought him to the hospital. Sometimes you women are not very nice. So those are examples, of manic depressant. So, um, uh, in a manic stage, you can just be manic too. So, I mean, one of the things about the DSM-5 is they have, depression is just the severity of the symptoms. Well, they had all kinds of, manic depressant, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and all this other kind of stuff. Well, the DSM-5 kind of cut some of those depression stories out. For instance, you don't have child depression because you have the same symptoms. So you just have major depression. And the final two things is I want to talk about are two terms. One is personality disorders. And oh my goodness, you do not want this on your chart, behavioral chart. Because personality disorders mean that the psychiatrist thinks, I can't help you. I can help you adapt, but I can't cure this and make it better. So a personality disorder is a long-standing, permanent pattern of inappropriate behavior. So if you have obsessive compulsive disorder, means that we can work on it and make things better. If you have obsessive compulsive personality disorder, that means you're going to have it for the rest of your life, and we have to adapt to that. So you really don't want personality disorder on your chart. You just want the disorder, not the word put afterwards. So general anxiety disorder. Okay, general anxiety personality disorder. Boy, dissociative disorder, dissociative personality disorder. Oh, that's not good. And the last thing is remission, which is very common in schizophrenia. There are periods about 2 weeks where they go totally normal. And this is very hard on Safira. This is very hard on family members and clients because they think they're getting better. And they're not. I know people would do internships. We have internships at the state hospital, some psych majors. And they always go, this guy should be in there. Well, he's in a period of remission. So remission, and we don't know why. We don't know why it comes and goes, especially in schizophrenia. Once we figure that out, we may be able to find a cure or to help. So I think that is everything that is covered in this chapter. If you got a term that I haven't talked about, please email me and I'll put an email and correct it. And this should set you up for the test. And I forgot when the test is, but I think it's a while. The test for this, the test for this is the 3rd. So that gives you time, a week to review. All right. Don't be depressed. Be happy. Be like Parnell Williams. Just walk around saying, I'm happy. And we'll see you soon. Bye.